Welcome to the Codcast. I'm Shira Schoenberg. Now that the presidential election is over, Massachusetts Democrats will turn their attention to another election, the race for chair of the state Democratic Party, which will be decided at a state committee meeting on November 12th. Gus Bickford has been the state party chair since 2016, and he's seeking another four-year term. Challenging him are Mike Lake, president and CEO of the nonprofit Leading Cities, and Bob Massey, who has led several organizations related to climate change and corporate responsibility. Thank you to all three candidates for joining me. Gus, why should state committee members give you a second term?
Shira, thank you, and thank you so much for hosting this evening. I believe that I am best suited to lead the party in the next 4 years, but specifically in the next two, to take back the corner office. I've been doing politics now for over 30 years. It's something that's in my blood and I have a lot of passion for. And in the last 4 years as chair, I think we've had a tremendous amount of success in the party. We've flipped 9 seats. We've flipped 3 county seats, 9 seats in the legislature, 3 county seats. We've also built up a great grassroots organization and had some of the most diverse coordinated campaigns and staff the party's seen. But the one thing that we were not able to achieve was the corner office in 2018. And I really look forward to that challenge and know what we need to do better. So it's going to start with a year and a half of leading up. And I think that someone who has the experience of being here before and knowing what we need to do is a good place to start. So I look forward to the challenge and frankly, hope to, gain re-election.
And Bob, you ran for governor in 2018, but you lost in the Democratic primary. You didn't raise a huge sum of money for your campaign. Why should Democrats believe that you would be a better chair than Gus?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I appreciate everything Gus has done. My concern is that Gus is focused on fairly narrow part of the job. It is important to win elections. That's part of our charter. But we also need to be building up the party. And there are tremendous structural problems that Gus has either not noticed or that he has been unable to address. We're not bringing in new people. We're not registering significant new voters. We have thousands of young people who feel frustrated and do not look to the party as a place for leadership or participation. Our fundraising has fallen off. And yes, I ran for governor, and I have to say that the support and preparation to help candidates for governor was really pretty minimal. Now, of course, the party waits until we have a nominee, but there are many other things that can be done to sort of prepare the ground for a challenge to Charlie Baker. That didn't happen. And then again, Gus had a terrible time raising money. It is hard to raise money when the papers were constantly saying this guy is the most famous and popular governor in the history of the universe. But just by contrast, I've raised tens of millions of dollars over the years. On one occasion, I raised $200,000 in a single lunch and $750,000 in a single phone call. So I know how to raise money, but money comes when you have exciting ideas and when you are really leading for the future. And that's what I think the party is not doing. It's actually getting weaker. And as a result, I think we're poorly positioned to win the governorship unless we make some significant changes and improvements immediately.
So we'll definitely get back to some of those points. But first, Mike, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and a similar question to you. You've run unsuccessfully for auditor and for lieutenant governor, both times losing in the Democratic primaries. Why should state committee members pick you to build up their party?
Sure. Well, first of all, I did join the party 10 years ago and with the idea that the party needed to be changed, and I thought I could help affect that change from within. And what I've come to learn is that the only way the party changes is if the chair wants it to change. So that has led me to this point in time where it's this moment. We need to change the party. In the last 4 years that we have seen such heightened increases in activism, not just here in Massachusetts, across the country, from an inauguration that had more people protesting it than attending it, to the Black Lives Matter movement that is now the largest protest in American history. I mean, these are people who are standing up and giving voice to a cause that aligns with our values. And yet in that same 4 period during Gus's tenure as our chair, we've lost 50,000 registered Democrats in Massachusetts. We can't win races if we're not inspiring people who even believe what we believe. So I think I supported Gus on the second ballot last time around. I'll be honest, even 4 years ago, I thought that our party should have a spokesperson at the face of the party that was not yet another old straight white man. So Steve Tompkins got my first ballot vote. The reason I declined so many attempts to draft me to run this time was the same belief that we should have a non-white, straight, old man as the party chair. And I'm running with a commitment that the person who replaces me will not look like me. I think we need to build the bench. We need to do that not just for the party chair, but for offices across the Commonwealth. I mean, we have one woman of color in the state Senate. We only have 11 executives who are women across the state, mayors or the like. So we have a lot to do, and Bob has mentioned the fundraising. It has been a problem. Gus and I have talked about this. When he first took office, I explained, as I did to previous chairs, that we as a party have to develop new approaches to raising money. It's not just about twisting arms. It has to be about inspiring people. It has to be giving people a reason, a cause, a mission to invest in. And that's the ticket. This is, from years of fundraising experience, I've raised almost $25 million for Democrats and for nonprofit organizations. You have to give somebody a reason if you're asking them to part with their hard-earned money. And that's my vision for the future of the party, is a party that is more than just electing Democrats to offices. It's about realizing our platform. It's about living up to the promises we make. It's about achieving the vision we have for the Commonwealth. And it's about contrast. Elections are all about contrast. And this is what we failed to do. The reason Charlie Baker, as Bob noted, was considered the most popular governor in America is because the Democratic Party was not providing ample contrast. We were barely providing any contrast. If we're gonna defeat Charlie Baker or Karen Polito or whomever the next Republican is running for governor, we have to provide a different and contrasting vision to the future of Massachusetts, and we have to highlight the differences in our approach in every single decision that the governor makes. You cannot wait for our nominee to try and do that in the last 2 months of a 4-year term or a 4-year cycle.
So I'd like to dig in a little bit more on the fundraising piece, but first, Bob and Mike have just had some harsh criticisms of your record. Gus, do you want to take a moment to defend your record?
Sure. I will significantly disagree with a couple of points. When you look at the number of registrations, we've actually had more people registered Democrat than the Republicans did over time. He's also factoring in a purge of the voter file where there was a significant drop in voter registration numbers. I also think that that's a reflection of, we can't compare apples to oranges. We have to see what's happening. And during this period of time, we had a very horrible president in the White House. We had a governor who was in the 2 most consequential elections of our lifetimes decided to blank and basically not stand up for the people of Massachusetts, but also give people a lead that maybe parties weren't important. So when it comes to the number of people we need to register in the Democratic Party by winning the governor's office in 2022, I think that will be the greatest jump in voter registration we've seen for the Democratic Party in a long time. When it comes to fundraising, all 3 of us have had a tremendous amount of fundraising experience. I've fundraised for the party for over 28 years, and fundraising relates to the challenge at hand. So part of the problems that we've had recently is we haven't had necessarily close races. I raised money for the party in 2010 and 2012 and 2016 when I was part of campaigns, and those races were within 4 points or 6 points. And so we were able to raise $4 and $6 million for those races. Over the past 3 and a half years, and including this year, we're going to average raising 3 to 4 million for the party. But when you look at the U.S. Senate race this year and our congressional races, the average victory was over 30 points between the Democrat and the Republican, and we sent a complete Democratic delegation to D.C. So you're going to see that we actually provided a significant amount of legislative support, both monetarily and on the ground. And where I disagree with Bob is, we actually have put together incredible trainings and field efforts that have really helped us. And again, you just look at the success as to the victories that we have. But I also want to say we've done those in ways that have also moved forward when we've reached out for legislation, whether it be the Roe Act or whether it be the Millionaires Tax, or pushing people forward, or actually helping the organizations they talked about facilitate the rallies that they put forward. So there is, we've had a tremendous amount of success. There is absolutely, I look forward to the charge in doing better, but, and I know that we can.
So on that fundraising point, since 2017, despite the enormous passion in Massachusetts that we've seen opposing the president, the Democratic Party raised about $2.5 million based on your campaign finance filings, which is less than the Republican Party raised during that time and less than Democrats raised in the prior 4-year period. Mike, you're a deputy treasurer to the party. Why is fundraising so low, and how are you going to improve it?
Yeah, it's coming back to what I said just a little while ago. The fact of the matter is we don't give people a good reason to donate or contribute, or what I would describe as investing in the party. And I mean, the reality is we have, and as I have been saying for 10 years, we lack a mission, we lack a purpose, as a stated purpose as a party. And when some people say, no, we do have that, they suggest that our mission is to elect Democrats. That's not our mission. That is a tactic. And unfortunately, we've treated it as a mission. And what that means is that our ask of people is to invest in us so we can elect Democrats. When the smart investor says, well, why do I need the Democratic Party for that? I'll invest in the Democrats I want to elect. And that's what happens. People give to candidates. I mean, just looking at this recent cycle, Massachusetts is third in the country in terms of money raised, and we raised like 189, almost 190 $1 million. So there are people here who believe in our values. There are people here who have the resources, whether it's high dollar or low dollar. The reality is they just don't see the party as the place to invest. And by bringing a mission and living up to that mission and holding ourselves accountable to delivering the platform that we as a party put forward is all reason to give to the party. It's not just about electing Democrats. I mean, the fact of the matter is we've had what we call the most progressive platform, and for 3 years it has sat idle, collecting dust. Gus is right, we've added a few seats, flipped a few legislative seats. But we now have 80% control in the House, 90% control in the Senate, and we still can't get our platform through the legislature. So we're not giving people reason to invest in us, and that has to change. If we cannot expect people to stand with us if we're not willing to stand up ourselves.
And Bob, I know that you have made a similar critique of Gus, arguing that it doesn't matter how many seats Democrats hold in the legislature if the legislature can't pass the things that are in the party platform.
Look,
things like the Roe Act.
I think the party needs a complete rethink. And one of the things I object to is how this whole election's being run. In the past, there have been multiple forums, a chance for candidates to be heard from, a recruiting of wider candidates. This one was about to just slide through without any real consideration. And Gus, I think it's unfortunate that you ran around and talked to a lot of people and told them you were running without mentioning anybody else was running. So, that's just not the way you choose a future. We have no real idea where we're going. I'm about to release a plan that has 10 specific action plans for things that we can do. So Mike is right in that we win elections, but it's a little like the Sorcerer's Apprentice, where we just keep doing the same thing. But we're not making progress. We're not educating the the grassroots, where our town committee structure is sort of falling apart. We're not addressing the core issues that have been revealed as part of COVID. Black Lives Matter, the economic inequality, the breakdowns in our educational and healthcare system, climate change. We have been embarrassingly far behind on climate change as a party. Gus specifically has rejected attempts to move that forward and thus alienated thousands of young people who want to participate but don't see that the party is the right place. And then on the question of money, I want to come back. Money follows ideas. We need exciting ideas. And Mike, just as a point of that could help me out, you've talked about how many millions you've raised. The number goes up every time we talk. I'd like to know actually where you raised the money. I'd be happy to share where I've done that. And I also don't see how you can possibly achieve all these bold things with doing it as a half-time job. So, I think Gus has had a shot, and Mike would be more credible if he was willing to work full-time on this. We need change. We need to improve the existing party and strengthen it so that we're ready to meet the challenge of 2022. I think I'm the person. The party has got many factions now. I think I have strong connections into all the different factions, and I think I could move us forward, stop the squabbling, stop the complaining and the accusations, and build us together so that we can win that corner office. Massachusetts should be a political and intellectual leader across the country, as it has been in the past. It's not playing that role now. And that's partly because we're not willing to re-examine what we do in the light of the evolution of history. American history is in a new place. And, many of us hope for a complete blowout against Trump. We're still hoping that Vice President Biden will win, but there's going to be a huge amount of work that's going to require a rethinking of the party across every major category.
So I'm going to bring this back to Gus in a minute, but first, Mike, do you want to take a minute and answer that question about how you plan to take this role part-time? I know Gus is doing it full-time, and Bob has also said he would do it full-time. You obviously still have your job at Leading Cities.
Yeah, I actually, since I've joined the party, and John Walsh was chair at the time, and he was the person we made an exception for to be the first person that was a full-time chair. The chair once received a stipend. It has gone from 5,000 to 25 to 50 to 75 to 100. Gus, I don't even know what you're currently paid right now, but I believe that I'm told it's over 100,000.
It's 100.
Okay, so it's 100,000. So, please try and find a Democrat anywhere in Massachusetts or the country for that matter that has seen that kind of wage increase over the last 20 years. But the bigger point here is that we've only now had 2 full-time chairs in our party's history. Gus and John.
You can do it part-time. That's what you're saying.
No, I know you can, because that's how it was designed. That's how it was always done. And that's what separates the chair into an oversight capacity, which is what we don't have right now, which is why we're in the middle of an investigation in a scandal, which is why we have focused so much on the operations and not on the strategic direction of the party, which is why we've been focusing on delivering lawn signs, but not raising the funding we need as a party, or building the bench. These are the things that the chair should be thinking about. The chair should be responsible for, and that separation is critical, especially on the oversight piece. But if you're in the weeds, you do not have the ability to provide the strategic direction that we need. So I think both Gus and Bob wanting to do this full time should disqualify them from seeking this office.
And one fundamental disagreement that I'm really hearing is about the role of the party chair. Now, Gus, you seem to be on the side that the role of the party chair is getting Democrats elected, and then it's up to the legislature to decide what to do with that, to focus on getting the platform, getting democratic values passed. Do you think it's a fair critique that Democrats have not gotten enough of these progressive bills passed, or is that just not your role?
Yeah, I'm going to strongly disagree with that, because let's remember this platform, this very visionary, forward-thinking, progressive platform, was basically created under my leadership with the 3 co-chairs that I created for the platform committee. And I heard a tremendous amount of accolades after the convention about how open a process it was, transparent a process it was, and for the sake of a convention, how well it worked and the product that was delivered. I think I'm going to also disagree with Bob that, when it comes to the environment, I've pushed forward significantly on many different issues, and it's something I care deeply about. So when it comes to the platform, it's a forward-thinking document that takes time to put forward. And I think that we have put an incredible amount of work into rebuilding our town and ward committees. I'm also going to disagree and say town and ward committees now are probably stronger than they have been in 10 years, just because of the amount of work. I've had a staff person who's significantly just been working with them to get them moving forward. I also want to say, when it comes to revisioning what it is for the party, when you think about what we've had to achieve in the last 3 years, by moving forward with trying to basically broaden the outreach of our party, which we have done a significant amount of work, the diversity of the leadership in my staff itself, working with the organizations that both Bob and Mike had talked about. We have, their first names, their cell numbers. We talk to them all the time. We included them in trainings that we put forward. We had a training in Roxbury Community College, of which we included them as part of the process so that we can bring in more people that would be willing to be part of the process in 2018. So, those are, some of the things that we work forward to. And so I completely believe that the platform is an incredibly important part of the process. I do believe that the one, minor disagreement I might have with Mike is that, when we do, get to the point that someone has become the Democratic nominee, unless they've supported a Republican in the past, I think it's important that, we get them over the finish line, and that, the party should do everything they can. But I also want to push back when you look at the candidates that I have recruited, significantly recruited. It's been a very diverse group of people that have won these elections. And I think that I also have a much stronger background if you look at the number of people I've worked for and elected over my lifetime of work. The majority of them don't look like me. So I actually have a much stronger record when it comes to trying to break down barriers and get people into office. I haven't been a candidate primarily because my role has been trying to get people who don't look like me into office and into places of power. It's a passion of mine. I love doing it. It's frankly something that, I am so happy about when I see them inaugurated. So, those are some of the things I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to say that I've worked very closely with both of these gentlemen, and I think that, they have a lot to offer. But when it comes to the next 2 years specifically, I think that I'm best suited to lead the party.
And Bob, you've criticized the party for not doing enough to attract young Democrats and racially diverse Democrats. What would you do differently?
Well, first of all, you have to radiate a sense of openness. And unfortunately, and by the way, before I go there, I just want to say I respect the work that Gus does winning elections. He is good at that. He's a good campaign operative, political director. I don't think he's necessarily has the breadth of vision for the full chair role, as you were referring to, but I think we should recognize achievement where it exists. But the problem is that just getting elections won is only one piece of the puzzle. So to come to your question, first of all, I've had my own experience, and certainly after calling people, I've had an earful of people who said, I came to Gus, I suggested this, I wanted to be involved in this, I said I could find the resources, and he just wasn't interested. So there's a kind of tone that's been set. And, Gus, I'm sorry if this is new to you as feedback, but many people say that you just don't listen to young people. You don't welcome their ideas, whether it's the high school Dems or the college Dems or the young Democrat. They feel like they're being told to wait for another couple generations. And the problems we face today are going to hit them in the face like a sledgehammer. So they do not understand the lack of urgency, fundamentally the lack of respect. The campaign that I'm running right now has more than 50 people working on it on Slack. and they flooded to it, and they're working together as a group. So it's partly a tone, but then specifically, we don't have time here, but I'm about to lay out a detailed plan for the town committees for recruiting, training, and empowering young people. We do have training sessions. We need more of them. We need them to be videotaped. We need them to be spread out and turned into the mechanisms that young people use through the media that they use. I also want to tackle racism head on. I have a deep background in addressing racial difference. I was involved in the anti-apartheid movement, wrote a book on South Africa. I've been seeking racial justice my whole life. And I believe we could have a kind of truth and reconciliation conversation in the party to help break through some of the long-standing suspicions or incapacity to move forward.
So before we wrap up, I do want to get in one question to Gus on the investigation that Mike referred to a minute ago, which is the party has pledged its independent investigation into allegations that the UMass Amherst College Democrats tried to plant false accusations about sexual impropriety by Holyoke Mayor Alex Morse in order to hurt his campaign against Representative Richard Neal. More than 500 Democrats signed a letter asking for Gus's removal from your party position because of how you handled these allegations. Will the report be released before the election of a new party chair? You believe it will clear you of involvement in the incident?
First of all, it is an independent group, which I put together within 24 hours of people, with less than 24 hours of people that asked for it. So I am hoping, I hope it will be out before this podcast airs. So yes, it's very important to me that it gets out, because I also believe it will clearly lay out how we played no and I played no role. It actually gets back to one of Bob's points. These people actually have my cell phone number. They have my email address, and they reached out to me to speak. I didn't know what they wanted to talk about. So I took the phone call. Luckily, I was smart enough to say, well, can I get Veronica Martinez on the phone? So both of us got on a call with 4 of them, because they do believe that I'm willing to listen and reach out to them. Within less than, 30 minutes or so, we knew we couldn't be involved. So we recognized that they needed help, recognized we couldn't do it, told them that, this is something we can't be involved with, but quite clearly they're asking for help. So let us talk to lawyers. And so, which we did the next morning at 10 a.m. And then by 3 p.m. the next day, we passed on the contact information for the lawyer. And from that point forward, I had nothing to do with it. So it does come back to, frankly, being open and transparent and accessible, and something that, I'm going to agree with Bob. I think you do need to be, I wouldn't feel any differently. I think you do need to be a full-time chair to do this job effectively. It was a pay cut for me, but it's more of a passion. And it's something that, I feel, I think that all 3 of us care deeply about, what we are trying to achieve. And I know that, this is something, I love doing, and believe I am making a difference for other people. So I believe the report will be out by the time this podcast comes out, although I don't know that to be fact. I also know that it will show that we were not involved.
Can I just say something about this? So I think, first of all, we as a committee have been somewhat misled in terms of a deadline for this report. We were originally told 45 days. It's now more than 2 weeks past that. We have just over a week before this election. So I feel like there's a real issue here. But beyond that, I don't understand why this didn't automatically go to the Judicial Council. Instead, it was a handpicked group by Gus, who was under investigation. They chose someone who I know personally and have tremendous respect for, but who also has very significant ties to every party involved in this investigation. So is anything but independent. This is, the real issue I have here, whether this is guilty or innocent, that's besides the point. I see this as damaging to our party in the sense that for those who believe that Gus and Veronica acted inappropriately, I don't see how they can possibly accept a report that says anything different when it has been so undermined by the lack of independence and the heavy hand that leadership has had in forming the committee.
Let's just stop there. the leadership has had no heavy hand. I am as frustrated as you that the report was not done.
But wait, you
need to reread the charter and recognize what the role of the Judicial Council is, because this is not the role of the Judicial Council. And to try to achieve what we needed to achieve quickly, which is what I was hoping to do, you look at the leadership of your party. And so I looked at 3 people that, were 2 vice chairs and the head of the personnel committee and appointed them. So, and from the point that they were appointed, I've had no contact or any, talking. So again, I can't, speak to why the report wasn't done in 45 days.
But Gus, you say that, but yet all the communications that have come out about this go through the party email, which you and Veronica control. Anyway,
no, we don't. Mike, we don't control that. Just so you're very clear, we don't see it before it goes out. We were asked by the head of the independent committee if they could deal with a staff person, which was one of our staff people, and know that person wouldn't talk to us. So let's
go. I think we're getting in the weeds here, and definitely time to wrap this up. You can read a lot more on CommonWealthMagazine.org. We look forward to hearing more out of the party's chair race this week. Massachusetts Democratic Party Chair Gus Bickford, challengers Mike Lake and Bob Massey. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you, Shira.
Thank you.